Okay, awesome. So how's everybody going with their studies? Like what's fill me in? Like where are we at? Like are you all good? Like is it ticking along?
Yeah, I'm ticking along.
Hang on, I can't hear you now.
Oh.
Hang on, why can't I hear?
No one's. Can you hear?
Yeah. I think I had it muted or something. Okay. Yeah. So sorry, I didn't hear any of that.
I just said mine's ticking along. I'm getting there. I haven't done. Yeah. That's all I'm doing at the moment. Like I'm working. And as soon as I finish work, then I sit down and I do the paperwork for another 5 hours.
Oh no!
I've gone from months of not having anything to do, and now I'm like, oh. But it's good. It's fine. Good.
Okay.
It's good. I'm enjoying it, and I'm not really stressed about it actually yet.
Yet. So what are you working on? Like what are you up to?
I've completed I've completed one full body analysis, so the BMA report, hands, face and feet.
Awesome.
I've finished early, but I just have to write up the report of the body. And I've started on George's body today.
Awesome. That's good. Very good. Good progress. You're on track.
Yep.
That's good. We all look a bit tired. Oh dear. Melody, what are you up to, mate? Like where is yours ticking along?
A bit like Kate, I suppose, working and then doing this, but it takes longer than you think. So yeah. I'm short one whole person still, but I've done 2 face readings and a hand reading. There's 2 body readings that are done, and I've got all the forms out and filled them in for all the disclaimers and consults and all that. I realise I've got Helen's photos, but I've deleted Deirdre's photos, but I can probably get photos from Deirdre, so that's not so bad. And I've made contact with Deirdre, so I'll give her a call. So I thought I'd try and finish these 3 and then do the 4th one like in some kind of crazy like that.
So you've got Deirdre, Helen and
Tuckus.
And you did face, hands and feet and bodies on those 3 people?
No, haven't done any feet. I mean, I have, I suppose, in the body readings, but we didn't do them separately, sort of we did. Yeah, I've done 2. I've done Deirdre's face. She sent me a photo, and I've done Tuckus's face and hands. Okay,
but you're doing the face, hands, and the face and hands on the same people as the bodies, yeah?
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know we've got to do 4 sets.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, you're making really good progress as well then.
Feels like I'm not going to finish in time, but I'm not stressed, and I'll just.
But guys, you've done all of that in like 2 days. Like, so seriously. Like, I mean, remember you started a few days ago?
I didn't think a face, like a hand reading would take, it took me all day yesterday till last night late to do a hand reading.
That's because you're learning it at the same time. Like, you remember, you've only just learnt that. Like, I mean, all of it really you've only just learnt. I mean, really just be like really forgiving on yourselves, because not even forgiving, but just, remember that this is studying. It's not like, like, what have you done? You did a 10-day course on this. Like, do you know what I mean? So, like, and then you've read the book a few times. You've done a little bit of practice. It's like, it's still really new information. You know what I mean? So,
well, it was really
like,
good
seriously.
though, because he actually, I don't know, I don't want to waste everyone's time, but He
You're
had
not wasting everybody's time.
really even balanced hands that were really easy to read, but he had certain injuries, and by unraveling the certain injuries, the evaluation was actually really interesting. Like, it was actually a really interesting process, because at first, like you were saying the other night, it's confusing because there's so many different levels that you can go into. But if you pick out the things that kind of stick out more, it was like, whoa, oh, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. So it was really interesting from that perspective.
That's so cool. That's really super cool. Yay, that's really good. And yes, that's great. I'm so glad you're actually enjoying it. Like all of like Kate and Melanie, I'm glad you're really enjoying it. That's good. That's really good for me to hear. Good. Because I just want you to enjoy this. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if you don't, then you don't. But that would be my preference.
No, I totally enjoy it.
Yeah, that's really good. That's good. I'm really glad. And Jess, what have you got going on, babe?
I've got all of the things for three people. So at the end, I'll just do one all in one go. But I've sort of did all of the faces at the start, and now I'm doing the bodies. And I've pretty much done all of the one part of the bodies. I just need to write the evaluation, and then the hands, really. And then one whole person, because I just find if I'm focusing just on the faces, I'm getting better at picking things up with the individuals. And then if I'm just focusing on the bodies, then it's helping me sort of piece it together. Yeah, so I think if I can just really do a lot today, then I'll just have the hands to do, because I'm finding them hard to do over photos, really bad to not be able to touch them.
No, they really are really hard to do over photos.
So I've just left them for a bit, and then I'll give myself like 3 or 4 days next week to just do one whole person from start to end, and hopefully that'll be the one that I submit if it goes well. And
hopefully that could be somebody that you could see face to face.
Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for. Yeah.
Melanie, that's the same as you. If your fourth person could be another face to face, that's going to be a lot easier for you, you know?
Yeah. I noticed that with the hands. Like, I had his photos because he works really strange hours, but when he came home, I could actually touch them and feel them and, you know, take it on board. That was when I went into that zone of being able to evaluate it in a whole different way.
For sure, because like we're intuitive people as well. So, you know, it's when you touch the flesh, it almost like starts communicating with you.
Yeah, and a lot of your words, like from the other day, sort of started to come back. Like, I could remember what you were saying. It's almost like touching him brought them out of consciousness. Yeah.
That's super cool. That's really cool. All right. So because it's just like the four of us. Oh no, Manisha's here. Hey babe, how come I can't see you on the other screen?
Hey, I just unmuted. The kids were being a bit crazy.
Okay. Hey. How you doing?
I'm doing heaps better. I had a good nap.
Hello, gorgeous.
And yeah, so I have done one full body, face, hand, a mind analysis, and 2 separate face readings, plus 1 separate hand reading, and started on a body reading as well. I've done 1 trigger point release session, and I tried to record it, but it didn't record. But yeah, I'll record a better one anyway.
Okay, that's good. That's really good. Good work. Well, you poor thing, Manisha was sick last night.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get back to you. I didn't see your message till this morning.
No, that's all right. I just want to make sure you're okay. Because
I hope she wasn't worried about me like all night.
Well, I was, because you're like, oh, I've got a rash and I'm nauseous. So I was like, oh God, that's not good. You know what I mean? Anyway.
But it's not that bad either.
Yeah, but just when there's a rash, it's a bit like, oh dear. Yeah. But yeah. You look hard to see you, but you do look like you're there and alive.
Yes, I'm much better. Yeah, I can participate in a part of this.
Awesome. Well, because it's only just the four of you, why don't we like answer any specific questions first, and like anything you want to go over, like we could do the body split. What are things that I've written a couple of things in the group, but should we just go like just give each of you a chance to say what you want me to go over, and I'll just go over it?
Yep, I'm happy with that.
Melody, do you want to start?
I don't really have anything specific.
Okay. Does anybody have anything specific?
Yep. I do. Mind if I go?
Yeah, sorry. I just parked in the car because I don't get good reception at my house and there's so many neighbours walking around. But anyway, it's fine. I mean, not that it bothers me, but that's why my eyes just keep going like this. It's like, oh, there's people, because, you know, you just don't see many people at the moment.
Oh, that's true. I'm having a little bit of trouble with those 4 pages. Like, I feel like I'm repeating a lot, and I'm looking at the silhouette. So I'm getting my head around each individual page asking a different thing. But I struggle to find some information in the book. Like when it, and maybe that's because whoever's did Herman write these books and those examples? Yeah. So like he's drawing upon a wealth of knowledge, and sometimes I don't find how that is there. Like especially what the twists mean. I think I put that in the message. Like,
yeah.
You know, like as I said, I remember that standing like with the fronts forward. It's sort of like standing in a fighting position. But like he wrote something else, and I was like, where the hell is that in the book? Like suppressed childhood memories or something like that. I was like, wow. And then also that spinal curve, like the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, coccyx. I don't know where I can find information about that in the book. And I asked Kate before I asked you, and she couldn't find it either, unless we're looking in the wrong spots. I don't know.
Okay, there's definitely that information in the book. Okay, but look, what you've got to remember is a lot of my interpretations are not in the book, because they're my interpretations, as in like I've either heard Bianca say it, or I've put that together myself, and that's just become part of my lingo. So it is challenging, because some of the things that I've taught you are just based on my own thing rather than what I've read from the book, if you know what I mean. So they're things that I've picked up over 7 years. So so it is, I don't want to say sorry, because obviously there's nothing to be sorry about, but I do feel a bit like, oh shit, yeah, I can understand how that would be confusing, because not everything that I've said is actually referenced from the book. So it's like, do you get what I mean? So the point I want to make about that though is that a lot of time there's going to be things that you will feel that will actually inform me, and then I'll teach them to my next students, and I'll be like, oh, this is something I learnt from Jess. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, you don't think that what I want to say is, don't put the book over your own intuition. If something's not in the book, I mean, I'll go through the lumbar spine and all of that now, because that definitely is somewhere in there. But the upper body twist, there's not much about that in there. But that doesn't mean to put what's in the book over your instinct, because your instinct is your interpretation, and this is your client, and you attracted that client because they were meant to get that message from you. So whatever message comes through you is the correct one. It doesn't matter if it's nowhere in the book. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. So with the upper body twist, okay, so the way that I see it is that when we have when we see a twist in somebody's body, I feel like it's sort of leaning toward a dominance. It's the same as if somebody was always leaning more into one leg than the other. So it's almost like there's a dominance. It's quite energetic, really, but it's like there's an energetic dominance, or it's like there's more of a safety to put that part of ourselves forward. So it's not just that I'm trying to put myself in that position. It's not just that there's a twist, so we're ready to fight. We're sort of guarding the heart. It's almost also that I feel more safe with this side. This side's more dominant. This side, I put this side first. I rely upon this side. I sort of, what's the word? I identify more with this side. So it's like, I would say that whatever side's coming forward, usually it is the right, to be honest. Most people do have their right forward and their left back. It's like protecting the heart. Yes, it's like the fighter stance. But why? Like, why am I more comfortable putting the masculine forward? And that says quite a lot, to be honest, because it says that I'm more comfortable in my masculine energy, which means I've, you know, what's the word? I've relied upon a lot my intellect, my knowledge, my thinking, and my feelings. There's a lot more vulnerability in my feelings. There's more fear associated perhaps with my intuition, my creativity, my sexuality, my sensuality, my flow. Why is that? Is it because you know, what sort of household did I grow up in? Because that's in this, remembering that the bones are the structure, that's historical. Okay, so whatever the bones and the structure are doing is historical, whereas the flesh and the tissue can change overnight. So what you're seeing in the flesh and the tissue is like the person's almost like current experience, their current state that they're in, whereas the structure and the form, that's historical. So if somebody's from the get-go developed a spine and like grown into a spine that's twisted, why? You know, why didn't they feel safe to stand in the two sides equally? I mean, nobody's good, two equal sides, but why, what was it that influenced that, and how is that still influencing them? And then what awareness do we need to draw to them to bring it back to balance? So remember to always come back to that question. Why is there awareness being drawn to this? Why am I noticing a body twist? It's not really the point to, like, you know, notice all these things and just tick it off on the form and get it right. It's like, I want to ask myself, why am I noticing this now? What's the message in this for my client? So like, am I noticing this because I want to draw their awareness back to coming back into a state of balance and really activating that feeling of femininity and drawing that masculine back and saying, okay, you don't have to be in that fighter pose anymore. You don't have to keep pushing and driving and, you know, standing like for that. You can soften. So it's like, what are the words that I want to say to bring this person more into that awareness of their left-hand side? Mm-hmm. So that's the upper body twist if it's to the right. Now, if it's to the left, you know what? I've never seen an upper body twist where the left is coming forward, ever. I really don't think I've ever seen it.
That's amazing.
But I've never even seen it in the face. Like, I don't know whether it's because this is what I attract. Well, obviously it must be. But even with faces, I've never read a face where the left-hand side has been like tired and weary and dominant. I've all read a face where the right-hand side is more tired, more weary, more dominant, and the left-hand side, I mean, I could even say this as I'm speaking to you now, I'm like, fucking hell, man. My feminine looks like a bloody teenager, and this looks like a freaking old woman. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's like, you know, and that's absolutely no surprise because my head's in overdrive at the moment with all this shit that's going on with the politics and everything. So basically, yeah, I think there's very much a theme in our society, and you will notice it time and time and time again, of that dominance of that masculine energy, and people really feeling more comfortable, more secure, more safe in that intellect, in that goal-driven, I'm busy, I'm driven, I'm structured, I've got form, you know, this is how it needs to be. And the feminine flow and everything is definitely going to be protected and held back and like not as dominant, like not as safe, let's put it that way. So it's like, that's all you honestly really need to say about it. Like, there's not that much more that you need to say about it, but you could start to then feel into, okay, how is that upper body twist throwing out the other parts of the body? Because if you've got an upper body twist, then what you're doing, if you're going like this, you're actually crunching into that left, like the left hand side through the side is going to be sort of like compressed and crunching, which means that you're not breathing as deeply into that left-hand side, which means that then there again, that feminine side's not going to feel as empowered, not going to feel as revitalized, not going to feel as energized, you know, as empowered. That would mean that the heart would start to feel more compressed. And then you might see an energetic drain around the rib cage. You also might see one through the back. You know how we see sort of like, which part of the back is that? You know, like the midsection of the back where it sort of dips in and that person's, you know, they're maybe not supporting themselves and they've got sort of like a dip in the middle of the back, and you sort of start to see that energy draining. It's like the person's not getting a full breath because their upper body twist here is putting compression through their left-hand side. Now, if they're putting compression through their left-hand side, then what's going to be happening to their hip on the right-hand side? Their whole leg is basically going to be sitting higher on the right-hand side. And then, of course, to compensate for that, they're going to stick their backside back, which means they're not going to have their coccyx tucked under. Now, if their backside's sticking back, that's going to make that dip in their back even bigger. And the dip in their back is going to make them feel even less supported. And like they're just losing all their energy out the front because their womb's poking out, their backside's tipping back. So basically, you know, they're not experiencing all their own yummy base chakra energy. And they're feeling vulnerable because in their own alignment, they're not experiencing all of their own energy.
Yeah.
I know I went really fast, but do you remember some of that from the course? Could you sort of...
so much.
And, yeah. And also, all you've got to do, honestly, I don't mean to minimize it. I know that this is a lot taking. I'm not saying all you've got to do. But all you do have to do is just stand up and put your body in that position, and you feel it straight away. Straight away. I mean, I think my body is naturally in that fucking position right now because my alignment's definitely all out. The other day I was thinking, right, who can I get to give me body work? So yeah, it's like, you know, because at the moment it's very much that survival instinct is being activated down here in Melbourne, Victoria. So, you know, we're you know, I'm not generalizing, but most people are going to be more in their head. There's going to be a lot of that survival, fight or flight. So the right hand side will most definitely be, look, as I'm speaking, the fucking right hand side of my neck has things bulging out of it. It's like, I can even see in my videos, like my right nostril, I don't know, just everything's just out of whack with this bloody thing that's going on. So it's like there's definitely got to be a leaning toward that masculine energy. I'm not saying masculine energy as far as like be the man and fight the system. I mean more of like the scrambling to try and figure out what's going on and getting, you know, like very much in our heads about it. And, you know, also the fight or flight, like it is the survival stuff. It's the, you know, so there's going to be that, you know, tendency to guard the heart right now, put the right hand side forward, but that's going to create compression through the left. So we want that person to almost like, you know, bring the right back and almost like bring the left hand side up through the side, get some big deep breaths into both sides and tuck the butt under, drop the right hip as well. Because it's sort of funny because what happens is, I reckon, because the right hand side sort of compensating up the top, in a way, even though it's more dominant, I think putting it forward and having it as dominant and then feeling like there's so much pressure on that side and so much emphasis, and then feeling that as almost like a vulnerability in the left, I reckon actually makes the masculine energy feel a bit less grounded. And I reckon that's why when our hip starts coming up, we actually feel more grounded in the feminine in the bottom half of our body, because it's like we're sort of leaning into that in the end. Even though we're bringing the right hand side forward, we're almost like leaning into the left, and the right hip is almost like lifting and the leg feels a bit wobbly because it's like I don't know, because of all of this twist and compression. So in a way, it probably makes our masculine feel a little bit less grounded, which makes us more inclined to want to put that out here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Can't escape.
So the flight and fright is how, like, if we were looking at someone sorry, I'm not really sure I understand 100%. With the flight and fright, I mean, I know totally what that is, so you don't have to explain that. But if we were looking at a body, is the flight, you're explaining that where the feminine's compressed? Is that what you mean? So we're frozen?
I was actually more referring to the feeling that I've got at the moment of fight or flight, as in like, fuck, what the fuck is going on with our society? Fight or flight, I'm in survival mode. But that's like a brain functionality. But in the body, yes, you can see that in numerous different places in the body. So first place that you can see fight or flight is in the toes. Remember the curling, crunching toes? That's like clutching. So that person grew up in an environment where they felt quite insecure. So because of that insecurity that they felt, or that fear or that instability that they felt in their growing up, then they would have compensated for that by perhaps creating really chunky legs, let's just say, to feel like really grounded and really solid. So their legs became bigger to gain that feeling. Now, a flight, remember those archetypes that you've got in the back of that? I think they're in the red book. The archetypes. So the flight body is a very skinny body. So somebody who's very skinny, very sort of wafy and not much tissue, desensitized tissue, like how I went last year, where I'm pretty much the same weight that I was last year. But last year, it's almost like all my tissue just disintegrated. Like because when I was going through the big spiritual stuff, there just wasn't much of a body here. Like I'm still pretty much the same weight, but now you should see me, like I've got tissue again. So it's like the tissue just filled up or something. So a flight response is somebody who's very skinny and sort of waif-like and almost like not much tissue.
Like Patricia.
Yeah. And even Kate, like more of a flight response body, which is more of a, and both of them have the psychic fingers. So as I said the other day, you know, a lot of people who think they've got anxiety and just feel a bit like in life a bit scrambled because there's so much energy. It's because they're actually psychic and because there's so much energy all the time. And you'll find that they usually are quite skinny, sort of, you know, more slender people. Sorry, Kate, to talk about your body like this. I'm not moving it. It's just like more of a slender build. Kate doesn't have much desensitized tissue at all. Much tissue.
Do have, like, I mean, if you compare myself to Patricia's like quite firm and toned, but I'm like yeah, I'm slim, but I feel like I've got quite a bit of desensitized tissue.
Maybe like you've filled up since I saw you. Because I have. I most certainly have. I've filled up. I'm not saying I'm saying like literally as if like the cells themselves have filled up. Like it's which I see as a positive. Like as in, not a positive, but you know what I mean? Like I feel more grounded since then because probably I'm more comfortable and settled in my psyche. And then the anxiety's settled down as well. So, you know, you would be feeling different in some way since doing all this work. So, yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. You're not bony. You're not like, you don't look like skeleton-like some skinny people.
Yeah.
But you've got more like the even.
Squishy.
Huh?
Quite squishy.
You're squishy.
Soft.
Squishy.
Soft
in places.
Stuff. Yeah, which is beautiful. But you know what I mean? It's like you can see the flight. I mean, look, my mum, for example, you guys have all met my mum. I would say that she's got a flight response in her body up the top around the heart. And she's very muscular, my mum. You wouldn't say she's waif-like or skeletal at all, but I would still say that that's that's a flight response in her body because she's very muscular. Even Manisha's got quite a flight response in her body. Whereas me, Jess, Melanie, we've more got the fight response, which is more like the voluptuous sort of holding. Like there's a bit more holding. You could just feel it in there. I don't know, if you think of Patricia and Manisha and Kate, their energy is more like angelic, sort of a bit more uplifted, I don't know, like airy, let's put it that way. Whereas me, Jess and Melody have more of like an earthy feel. Like it's not even about our personalities. It's like their energy. It's a bit more of a dense energy. That's what I feel.
Yeah,
so, yeah, we've got more of like a fight response in our tissue and you guys have more of like a flight response. Although last year, I experienced the flight response. So it was quite an interesting difference.
So can people also have a mix? Because I'm just thinking of Deirdre, and sorry, I'm not sure if I should be picking out certain people, but it helps. And I guess because we're in class, it's sort of a consent thing.
It's fine. I'm sure she would have absolutely no problem.
She has really strong sort of the warrior kind of fighting legs, but she has a flight response around her heart, all around
Exactly.
here.
Exactly.
Oh, okay, so I'm reading
Exactly.
it,
You're
right.
picking it up perfectly. That's like my mum, you know?
Yeah.
But sometimes that happens, doesn't it? Because, you know, it's almost like the body needs to balance itself out, or that will happen because of that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're picking it up perfect. So you could say that. You could say there's a bit of a flight response happening around the chest, which I would see that there's been some heartbreak. And to compensate for that, I feel, I mean, we don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg. But to compensate for that, I feel that that's where your legs are quite grounded and almost like you feel that you've got to be really strong to sort of hold this vulnerability in the heart. Now, there's nothing good, bad, right or wrong about that. But, of course, that can affect people emotionally. Do you know what I mean? So for my mum, you know, it has been a process of really opening that heart and trusting and not disassociating. You know what I mean? The flight is like a disassociation technique. We disassociate, like almost like leaving our body like it's too hard, and that's an anxiety response as well. Okay, so we can see the fight or flight in the amount of tissue, where the tissue is, the feeling of the tissue. Is it warm? Is it like, you know, vital tissue, or is it sort of like cold? Cellulite is a sign of cellulite would be a sign of it's a bit both cellulite, in my opinion, because to me it's a very fight response because it's holding basically extra tissue that's dead in a way. But because it's like dead and cold and cellulite, it's almost like there's a fight response happening in that tissue because there's no life or life force going to it. So a lot of desensitized tissue, even though it's a fight response to hold the tissue, the fact that it's desensitized, there's not a lot of vitality in that tissue. Like me, for example, I can just have my whole body really warm and then, yeah, just that little extra pudge that I've got around the butt that's a bit desensitized, that bit's cold, you know? So I just think it's almost like it's like an extra bit that's stuck on or something that's like, you know, just there for some sort of protection or some sort of extra grounding or whatever. It's almost like it's not part of me because there's no blood flow going to it. Like, how is that bit cold? You know what I mean? So it's interesting, like the temperature, the density, the feeling of vitality. Also, you'd be able to see the fight or flight response, yeah, through the upper body twist for absolute sure. Through this area, you know, a lot of people have a lot of depletion around this area. Again, you can feel, I mean, a lot of my vitality's come back, which I'm so really pleased about because remember, I don't know if any of you remember, but how depleted I got around the chest. Oh my God. So yeah, that was really intense for me, experiencing that level of depletion. I would say heartbreak, the spiritual stuff that was going on that was a bit scary, just all of it. So there was a lot of depletion that was happening around here. I felt really like there was nothing in there. It's like it was just empty skin. And now, you know, it feels more plush or whatever you want to say, like plump, sorry. Yeah, like as in there's actually something there, you know what I mean? Like there's vitality there. So yeah, I feel it's like a sign of self-nurturing. So, yeah, you can see that fight or flight through that upper body twist, through the amount of flesh through here. The neck, the length of the neck, a flight response is a very long neck because you're sort of like trying to like rise above your own emotions. Another flight response that you would be able to see is a really upturned forehead, because it's like they're basically just connecting with spirit constantly.
As in a head tilted back? Is that what you
No,
mean?
like when their face is forward, that whole bit of their forehead almost like slopes all the way back. Like, those men that have got like a really shiny forehead and it's like literally got like the sun reflecting off the top of it.
Yeah.
It's like they're actually very spiritually sort of minded people. Yeah.
So does that mean that the visual part is forward and then the memory and the imagination is like going, like receding back?
Yeah.
So they're angled up? Because to me that just means that they make decisions without needing too much detail.
Yeah, that could be the thing. So if there's like the hair, if there's not much sort of hair coming down and they're very slicked back, that's a sign of like, yeah, I'm very independent. I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I don't need a lot of detail. I'm just do it my own way, because there's not a lot of that old programming coming down over the memory. But when the forehead completely sort of slopes back, like Herman had that, like it was almost like, honestly, it was like the forehead was like shining, It's like, yeah, the observation, very observant, that was all facing forward. But this whole area was basically just like, not that his face was like that, but that whole area was like that, like, boom. Yeah, it's very much like that connectedness to spirit, which can be a flight behavior. Did that sort of answer the question, Melanie and Jess, your two questions?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jess, the other part of your question was where in the book is the stuff about the coccyx being tucked under. So go to the chapter where it goes into the body reading.
Hang on. What? The chapter where it goes into the body reading?
Like as in the chapter in the blue book?
I'm in the bit where it's the body, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there should literally be a whole page there about hip angle, pelvis angle.
Yeah, I've got the curvature of this. I mean, where it's like the, what is it? Not lordosis, kyphosis, that scoliosis. To the spine and the lower back, and it's got those. Is that what you're referring to? Is that because that's
Melanie? What page you on, babe? Oh, but you guys all have different books. So Melanie, could you just show us the page?
71 and 72, but I think that's what Jess is talking about.
I've got the pelvis, and then there's the diaphragms and the breathing in the chest. The shoulders, breast, and then it goes into the spine and lower back. Now that's where I thought I would be looking for that, because that's the spine and spinal curve. But there's like, hang on, I'll turn it around. Like it doesn't seem to really talk.
Oh, now you've disappeared.
Yeah, I'm showing you the book.
I know, I can only see 4 of you on my screen at once. So, yeah, that's it. But hang on, there's another page that shows the pelvis.
Yeah.
That was back.
That's back, right?
That one, yeah. Yeah. So basically he's broken it down into pieces. So you will be piecing it together. So there's nothing there that's going to show the whole picture put together, because everybody's picture would be slightly different. So he's broken it down to the pelvis and the hip tilt. Like, I mean, obviously when you go through that evaluation form, not the one with the drawings, but the other form, they're all the parts that he's broken it down into, because they're all the parts that he wants to have a comment or a commentary on. Okay. And then you will piece together. So let's just say, it's not that one, but I
know what you're referring to, but this is what I'm having trouble as to what I'm supposed to be saying about these.
Okay.
More regardless of what to say about them, I know how to identify them on the body, but what it interprets to, if there's only from a point of like, you know, like a certain type of butt means something, you know, so if I'm saying that the coccyx is, I don't even know what, under, then I guess I can refer that to the pelvis, but the lumbar.
Honestly, most people you're going to find, okay, I'm going to tell you basically, I don't know if this is what I attract, but as I said, I show a varying tree. Their butt poking out. So imagine their bum hole, like, I don't know how else to describe it, bum hole, right? Rather than the bum hole tucking under, the bum hole is like, I visualize it as the bum hole is up. Okay, so if somebody's actual bum hole is tucked under, you would say that they're like a tight ass. Not as in a tight ass like with money, for example, although it could be, but more like scared. They're holding their ass tightly. They've got it tucked under. They're holding it real tightly because there's like fear. So it's almost like the butt is clenched. The ass cheeks are clenched. The asshole is like tucked under and almost like sucked in, like a tight ass. Like I'm holding my whole self so closely because I've got a fear in life. Whereas if somebody's butt is like sticking back, it's like, and their bum hole is like open, almost like outward. It's almost like, I know that this sounds ridiculous, but it's almost like a sign of the opposite, like vulnerability. It's sort of like the same pattern, to be honest, but it's like being expressed as more like a vulnerability because they're basically like, because they're pushing their belly out so far, their back is dipping, they don't feel supported, and therefore their ass is almost like out and it's almost like open. Like anybody could just come and bend them over and fuck them in the ass. So it's like basically they're leaving themselves completely vulnerable to getting fucked over at any moment. So it's basically the almost like two ways of seeing the same pattern, which is fear, either as fear as in my belly's sticking out, I don't support myself, and my ass is just open to being fucked over, or my fear is expressing itself as I've got my ass tucked under, I'm squeezing my butt, and I'm like all sucked in, right? So what we want to get to is we want to correct both of those, as you know, because we want it to be that the asshole itself is like relaxed and open, but not sticking up so that anybody can just come and, you know, have their way with you from like, you know, metaphorically, I'm talking metaphorically, like metaphorically fuck you over, right? Because all of your power is spilling out the front and you don't have your own back and you've got this big dip in your back, which of course then you're going to have an upper body twist because you feel so vulnerable, right? So it's like we don't want it all sucked up but we don't want it all open and no power there either. So both of those, that's all you're going to see. That's all you're going to see is either one of those two. And then it's basically saying the same thing, which is it's the fear and their survival, but which way have they expressed it? Have they expressed that by, like, you know, contracting, or have they expressed it almost like by becoming so vulnerable because they've given all their power out the front because they're giving from their sacral, which has basically left them open to have pretty much no base chakra energy and therefore being walked all over like a doormat, or what I would say is like, I think of it as just being bent over and fucked in the ass, metaphorically. right? Because if I think of it as that metaphor, it helps me to identify which way the asshole is pointing. That's how, honestly, I actually think about it as a way of identifying it. So what I want to do is I want it to be balanced so that they're not sucked in or totally open, that it's just a nice relaxed curve under, but the asshole itself is still relaxed and open, but the whole pelvis is tilted under. Then you're going to look at the lower back separately, because the lower back isn't always the same. Like as in, some people might have the sucked up version of their butt and their power and their sacral still spilling out the front. But some people might, as we said, more have that sucked up. But you might still notice the upper body twist. Or somebody might have the tilted pelvis and their bums poking out and wide open and their belly spilling out the front and they've got the dip in the back. So there's a few different combinations. So that's why different, and then you'll have to see what's the whole story telling. Have I given that any clarity or no? Have I just made it more confusing?
So it's just a bit of connection issues, that's all.
Yeah, I feel like I understand what you said in that bit, but when I'm looking at what I'm like this, like I understand that bit. Yeah, I understand what you said, but no, I still don't actually. I understand how to look at the coccyx now, bum hole, but lumbar. So lumbar is kind of like support, would you say? If you were to put it in that, we're looking at what that part is doing for support, yeah. And then in the book it said thoracic, and she said giving herself pats on the back, and I'm like,
yeah, but yeah, okay. So the lumbar is like, think of it as the past expression of the sacral, because it's the back side of the womb. So think of it as like what has happened in the past that this person is now giving all their power away out the front, and they've got this massive dip in their back, so they're not supporting themselves and they're giving their power away. So what's happened in that person's past, because it's at the back, that has created this feeling of I've got to stick my sacral out and I've got to give so much energy. So what I do is I link the front and the back, because if I just look at the back independently, it does become a little bit confusing. But if I look at it as the back side of the front, it's like, what's happening at the front? If the back's dipping, if the lumbar spine is dipping, then it means that the energy is coming out the front. So I'm giving so much of my sacral energy. Why am I giving so much of my sacral energy? Is because I don't feel at home in my own body. I don't feel comfortable and contained in my own sacral energy. And that's because in the past, I felt unsupported. I haven't supported myself, which is why I've got a dip in my lumbar. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the same as the thoracic. It's like, that's the back side of the heart chakra. So it's like, if I haven't nurtured my heart, if I haven't given myself enough pats on the back, then I probably am going to have quite a lot of depletion around that area. I'm going to have quite a lot of protection. I'm going to have shoulder blades that are sticking out that are very defensive. I'm going to have a dip in between the shoulder blades because I haven't been giving myself enough pats on the back, and I haven't been, there's almost like an armor. There's an armor.
Yeah.
There's an armor and there's a feeling of defensiveness, almost like a feeling of protection in the past, in the heart. So, remember that the back is the past and the front is the way we're facing the world. So I would look at, okay, what's the correlation between what's happened in the past and now how I'm currently facing the world, and then how I'm currently facing the world, how's that feeding into the past again? Because it's like the way I'm facing the world is going to imprint what my memory is of the past. So therefore how I'm relating to what happened in the past. So it's like, I'm in the past, I may have got hurt. So I'm facing the world with that hurt by overcompensating, by having big nurturing boobs and a sacral that's spilling and giving all my power, for example. But then because I'm doing that, I'm feeling even more hurt. So then that's feeding back into not patting myself on the back, not feeling supported, and not feeling in alignment. Remember that when there's a big dip in the back, you've also got to remember that when that person's on the string line, none of their energy is in their core alignment. So imagine how they would be feeling if all of your energy is sort of like, it's not centralized at all. It's all off balance. You're going to be feeling, I'm being pushed more that way and then pulled more this way, and I'm not in alignment. I'm not feeling all of my own energy.
Amazing. Thank you. That just, yep, perfect.
Okay, we hit the nail on the head. And if you need to ask the same question again tomorrow, then ask it again tomorrow. Like, I can say it in a million different ways, like till we get, like, it doesn't matter. We can talk about this as many times as we need to. Like, it's because every time I say it, I'll use different language and it might just resonate differently. So,
sorry.
Go for it.
So that would also mean like past life too.
Yeah. But to be honest, like, just for the sake of your readings, I wouldn't even go there because it's almost like already so much. But you might just make a reference like, perhaps you came into this world with previous imprinting, that from the moment you were born, you were already processing that previous imprinting. That's how it is to the very being, that it's literally woven into the structure of your spinal cord,
Because for people born with
honest, I think everything spinal cord related is pretty much past life, but that's again an opinion, you know what I mean? Because to me, spinal cord is like ancestral, you know what I mean? It's like, that's just how I feel.
And if you were born like we say scoliosis, you're born that way, you came through that way.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, some of that would be genetics, as far as like expressing something that's in your lineage. Another part of it can be birth trauma or something that happened in the womb. So all of these things are like, things to consider. But and this is why, how the fuck could Herman put all of that in the book? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I had these frustrations too. Don't get me wrong. Like, as much as I'm like, not really even that into the book, like when I was learning, I was into the book and it was so frustrating. And also I would ask questions like the ones that you're asking and there would never be any bloody black and white answer. It'd just be this bloody floppy answer like the ones I'm giving you. And I'd be like, that's not an answer, that's an interpretation. But it's like, but the truth is, this is such an interpretive therapy. It's such an intuitive therapy. Like, I'm not purposely just giving you these highfalutin bloody answers to piss you off. It's like, these are my answers and that's all I can give you. Because when I tried to learn from that book, it really was quite challenging. Like, because, so in the end, I just ended up throwing the book out the window. Like, not actually, but it doesn't matter asking Herman directly, and he's the one who fucking downloaded the book and channeled the book. Like, he'd go off on all sorts of tangents when you were talking to him too. So it's like, because it's a very interpretive therapy. So that's why I'm saying, like, if past life stuff starts to come into it, don't go too far into the reports, but of course, trust whatever's coming through, because,
question.
But honestly, trust whatever's coming through, because truly, like, that is the key to this therapy as well. As frustrating as that can be.
Oh.
What other questions do we have? Or do you want me to put more words around that one?
On me personally, I feel clarified with that.
Good.
I have a question. No, you go. You go, Manisha.
I just want to know, you know how you were saying with the pelvis pushed back, is it also because your base is not supporting your creative pursuits?
Sorry, by the way, I totally forgot that the kids were there. I hope I didn't say anything that was a bit too intense. I totally forgot they were there because I was looking at Jess when I was answering that question. I forgot the kids were there. I'm talking about all sorts of things. Anyways, okay. So sorry, what did you just ask me?
So the pelvis being tucked under, is that the base?
Yeah.
Support of the creative pursuits, like the sacral energy. Like, if it's not underneath it, does that mean it's just like the sacral's just like left its grounding, or as well? Like,
that's a good one. That's a good one because if you look at it from a chakra point of view, how is the base sitting into the hip bones? Therefore, if it's not really sort of sitting into the hip bones and then really holding and cradling that sacral energy really supportively, then of course the feminine doesn't feel supported. So then the feminine energy is going to go, well, I don't feel creative, I don't feel intuitive, I don't feel sexual, I don't feel sensual. And then of course that's going to end up with this depletion in the feminine around the top. You know what I mean? And the spilling of the sacral energy and the depletion around here for absolute sure. So yeah, you can also look at it from a chakra point of view. I mean, if the base chakra is almost like pushed out the back and the sacral spilling out the front, well, the solar plexus is going to be in complete overdrive because there's no primal sort of animalistic grounding happening and no sort of feeling of like sensual feminine power and creativity. So the solar plexus is going to go into absolute overdrive and start going, ego, who do I need to be, identity, and then that's going to come up into the becoming more in the head, because which is why, you know, in a time where our fight or flight is so activated, such as now with what's going on globally, it's so important to really be keeping that healthy base chakra, really. And I noticed my ass has definitely gotten bigger since the lockdown, and not because, I probably am eating more chocolate, but I've always eaten a shitload of chocolate. It's really it really is. I really do think my body is responding to this situation by saying, stockpile a little bit of, you know, base chakra energy in the back, put a bit of junk in the trunk to, like, you know, for survival purposes. You know what I mean?
I keep going off topic, but it's really interesting because I'm working from home and I have to sit all day in a kitchen chair at a desk. So it's making my back really hurt. So even though, like, you might not be going through the motions, but your body's going through those motions anyway. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. I'm telling you, my ass has completely changed shape since this lockdown. I've got extra bits that were not there before. It just has. Like, it really has. It would just be really interesting to do. I wish, that would have been such a good thing to do. Pre and post lockdown body readings or body, like, you know, photos, and even face readings.
Yeah.
Seriously, what an interesting case study that would be. Yeah. I can't even recognize my face from a week ago. When I look at photos of my face a week ago, I'm like, oh, I can't relate to that person. Like, because the lockdown is just so intense for me right now. I should only speak for myself.
It's a great idea, even in the climate that we're going into. Like, the world is changing. Like, if you did face meetings now, I bet you in 6 months it would be amazing. It would still be an amazing case study. Like, great idea. I might do it.
Yeah, we should. Yes, well, we should all do it and compile it. It's so interesting. Yeah, but Melanie, you're also not going off topic at all, because this is the topic, you know. Like, it's just, I want to keep clarifying what, because otherwise you guys will actually go into mass. So awesome. And that'll make me look really good as a teacher, but I don't want you to have
No, it's just really, really interesting. So I could keep unraveling it, but I know everyone's busy, so.
Stop doing that thing. You're doing that thing again where everything, you're like, I don't want to take too much time, or I don't want to blah, blah, blah.
No, I'm not saying sorry. But it's just really, really interesting, and you could sort of go totally in a rabbit hole with it.
Yeah. Can I just say, I know that this is recording, so I want to be careful how I say this. I want to be aware, not careful. How do I put this? Okay, I've given it too much emphasis now, but the people who are marking this are not as detailed or as deep thinking or as analytical as me. So, and I was the one who've taught you. So trust me, they're going to be impressed. And all of my students, they've been so impressed by all of my past students because they don't go as deep as we do. Like, because Bianca, who taught me, is very deep as well. So she taught me, and I, you know, and that was the perfect teacher for me because it's how much I like to overanalyze the crap out of everything. So yeah, like even Herman, I don't know, it's like, it's hard to explain. It's energetic. Herman, his very energy just moved you. Do you know what I mean? And he knew how to press your buttons to trigger the crap out of you. And then that would stir up all the crap and move all the shit. But what we're doing now, like analyzing this body part and how it fits with that and past life and all the emotions behind it and the fight or flight and all this, they're not talking about that sort of stuff. Like, we're already really in the game. So yeah, just be assured that they're going to find your work very impressive, that you're even thinking about these things and tying it all together and stuff. Trust me. All right, other questions?
I did have a question about drains. Sorry. I will say sorry because I've jumped in, but drains, I remember you talking about them a lot on the 10 days and I sort of, I understand the concept, but looking at a body, like, how do you actually see it?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Think about it as, this is how I think about it. What helps me think about it is those archetype pictures as well. You know how it's got the blue arrows, like showing the direction. So the way that I see it is it's all about the breath, okay? Because if you think about it, our life force energy is our breath, okay? So think of it like this, because this is easier to think of it than just looking at energy and where's the energy draining away. I mean, you could just sort of feel it, you could just sort of see it, but to give you a proper answer, it's more like, if we think about it as the breath, where is that breath not getting to in that body? So, and you will see it, because you will see, I mean, it's going to be a little bit more difficult on the photos, but you will see that when you are standing in front of a body and you are looking at that body, you'll literally see where the breath, the direction of the breath, because it's like over and over and over and over. If there's compression into that left side, for example, and the person's not taking a deep breath into that left side, you'll literally see lines. You'll see like almost like ripples in the river of the flesh, and that's like a drain. Because but when I say drain, it actually equals not enough breath is going there. They can't breathe fully. How can you breathe fully if your diaphragm's compressed on that left side? You can't fully breathe. You can clearly see right now as I'm speaking to you that I'm not fully breathing into my left side. You know, my right is just sticking out, like it's hard for you guys to see, but to the point that my right breast is literally falling out of my bra. But anyway, I just realized, I was like, well, I've literally got one loose. But basically this whole right side is getting so much of my air and everything like that. My whole left side's feeling quite compressed. I'm not like breathing fully into that side. And you will start to see through the back, the lower back and the side, you'll start to literally see like ripples in the flesh, in the tissue. And you might see even lines. You might see color change, like a color difference. You know, you might see more desensitized tissue because there's not that blood flow or that airflow or that life force going there. Or you might see less tissue, less healthy tissue. So more desensitized tissue or less healthy tissue. because
So what's
there's
the
no...
message for that? There's like, it's draining from the heart, and where is it draining to? Is it draining to the solar plexus? Is it draining out into the world? Where is it? What's the message like for the client who's got lines coming down from their heart? It's like they're depleted. Their heart has been...
They're not breathing. So if it's all about the breath, we want to bring breath back to that area, which is why we do the string line. So it's all about coming back into the alignment. So the whole point of having our body aligned is so that breath can get around better, so it can detoxify the body, so that we can release the toxins through emotional release, breathing, drinking water, and moving the body, and posture alignment, so that we prevent dis-ease because everything's moving, free flowing. So we don't get the blocks, because the blocks become dis-ease.
Okay, so it starts with the breath. The breath isn't a result of another psychosomatic response of like emotional or mental.
Of course, definitely could be. But if you bring the breath back first, it's like, I mean, if all of a sudden you do body work, well, this is why it happens, is because you could do body work on somebody and bring the breath back to a part that they haven't been breathing into, and all of a sudden that could dislodge a shitload of emotion that they had stuck down before and suppressed. So when you bring breaths to an area, it's like bringing life back to that area, like bringing movement, bringing release to that area. There's going to be a lot of emotion that could come up there. So definitely this all started off with an emotional response, but I don't know, do we? Because it could have happened in the womb, it could be generational, it could be, is it going to serve the client? Oh, that came from, something that could have happened to you in the womb. Yeah, for some clients that might serve them to start thinking like that, but for others it would just be better to get them on a string line or do some body work, bring them back into alignment, start to get the release of the emotion flowing for starters, so that the more they release, the more they come into that alignment even more, and the more the breath is going to get around, the healthier they're going to feel. You know what I mean? And then it's like that cycle. Then the more emotions are released. I mean, 7 years of doing this work, and before that doing a lot of coaching and sort of like, mental release work. So many of my things that were upsets before they're just not there anymore. Like they're just physically not there anymore. It's just gone. Like pinpoint moment it left, and I couldn't pinpoint to you. It's not that it's draining away to anything. I don't know if it can actually drain away. It could just be a concept, this feeling of it draining away, but it's basically depleting us of a full feeling of life force, full energy, full free-flowing chi all through the body, blood flow, oxygen flow, water flow, and therefore it's creating like the balance in the body could be imbalance, like in imbalance, that could create dis-ease. So that's why we just want to always bring the body back to alignment.
And the awareness on top of that, just not too much of a story, but just the awareness that their body is showing them physically, like you can't hide from this part of yourself, and to be aware of it.
Yes,
but not too
remember the soul is only drawing our awareness. It's not saying there's something wrong with you because your left side is this or your right side's that. It's just saying, I want you to be aware and to give you this awareness because you are meant to be experiencing this, because you came here to have this physical experience to experience this. So you're meant to be experiencing this. So this is not wrong. It's just that we've got a new level of awareness around it. It's not even about being aware to fix it. It's just about the awareness itself, that's helping to guide this journey of life that was pretty much always going to go the way that it's going. You were meant to have that body reading to give you that awareness to make that change. Like that was all part of what was meant to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kate, did you have a question that you've been trying to ask for a while?
I did, but I don't think I need to ask it anymore. Because I found something. So
I think it's like 25 degrees in this
Hey,
car. Sorry, I'm like literally sweating. I think it's like 25 degrees in this car. Sorry, Kate.
Wind the window down.
I do. I've got literally got my leg hanging out the window. Yeah.
I was just gonna ask. I found something, I can't find it now, but with the feet, how the feet are, the insides of the feet are the internal world and the outside.
Yes.
So does that carry on up the leg as well? So the insides of the, yeah, okay, cool.
Yes, because remember our internal world. So remember when somebody's got like quite a bit of, which that's the other thing that's happened since lockdown. Oh my God, this is fascinating. Okay, so obviously, well, not obviously because you guys wouldn't know this, but I'm having like I'm having no sex, like less sex than I've ever had pretty much in my life. Well, since I started having sex, 16. And honestly, I swear to God, it's like my thighs. And I don't know if this is because, you know, like at the moment also just feeling a bit more internal, feeling a bit more like my internal world's like really protected and guarded because that's, you know, that's all I've sort of got right now when you're in lockdown by yourself, like mostly, apart from when I go to the island and get to see tea. But we're not sexual either, as you know. So, but basically, my thighs have also definitely like got way more desensitized tissue around the top. So I think it's like my internal world. It's like, you know, it's God help whoever unplugs this. But it's like, yeah, there's basically almost like a guardedness happening around the top of the thighs. And again, it's funny because on the scales I haven't put on any weight, but it's like there's all of this change in where the tissue, like it's just it's reflective of what we're emotionally going through. So yeah, the if you've got a lot of desensitized tissue around the thighs, it's all protecting that internal world. It's not letting anybody in. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas some people have like, I mean, Kate and Manisha, again, both of you have quite legs that are quite wide set. So you've got quite an openness, which is interesting because both of you are sort of more like reserved and shy, not shy, but more reserved. It would seem like I would have those legs and you would have more the sort of closing around the top of the legs. But I think it's like, I think you've got to see it as like almost the more sort of external you are and the more sort of like outward you are, then probably the more guarded you are of your internal world. Whereas because you guys are like quite contained with your energy all round, like you've almost got it quite under wraps. So I think that you've got more sort of confidence around having some openness of your internal world because you've got it quite well balanced. Whereas probably I'm giving too much out one side and then closing up too much on the other side sort of thing. That's, I don't know, the way I see it.
Mm-hmm. You also said something in the course, Rach, about the thighs. Like I know in the book it's like sexuality and beliefs, yeah? But you were referring to the thighs as like not childhood memories. It was something to do with, it was something, and it was...
Was it something to do with Jacinta and her thighs and desensitized tissue in the thighs and the trauma, or the?
It's very much sexuality. So definitely childhood beliefs about sexuality, but also, you know, our legs are very much our grounding as well. So if you've experienced a lot of trauma, you'll find a lot of people with the curled up toes then have quite chunky legs. And they can still be skinny legs, but chunky. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I didn't have much trauma in my childhood at all like that. Like, yeah, my nana died and things which impacted my heart chakra. Like, I've got a lot of, like, heart sort of shit going on. But I've got very well-grounded toes. Like, my toes are, like, just really flat and just really quite, you know, stock standard, like, had a really easy childhood feet. And I've got desensitized tissue on my thighs up around the top, like as I said. But overall, my legs are quite sort of like skinny, but they're not the chunky, grounded legs. Whereas my mum, her legs are skinny too, but they're like muscly and like almost like tree trunk, really strong legs. Now my sister, she's got massive tree trunk, strong legs, but she had, when she was 2 years old, she went to hospital with asthma. So she got taken away from mum and dad and hospitalized for asthma. She also had a dog jump on her and knock her over in a separate incident. So she had 2 very traumatic events in her childhood that I didn't have. So it's just interesting. Do you know what I mean?
They're not sexual based, but there's still trauma around there. So
yeah, they're not sexual based. No. So, you know, strong sort of grounded calves, and muscly thighs. That's what I would say is more like grounded. I had to be strong. I had to, you know, like really be able to hold all the responsibility that I was putting on my shoulders. And then there's a difference between a lot of sort of cellulite desensitized tissue, lots of sort of like that floppy sort of skin that's almost like on top of the muscle. That's all the sexual stuff that I would say is more like holding of sex, like, you know, to protect that sexual area. And then you could also say beliefs could be in general, not just about sex, like right. Old belief systems that probably no longer serve me, like I've got to be strong, I've got to be,
right,
you know, I've got to protect myself, I've got to, you know, yeah,
I think that's what it was.
So, the
belief systems outside of the sexual, like, yeah, that doesn't have to be the belief system just about, it's just old beliefs.
So feel into it. There's no good, bad, right or wrong. It might be all of the above. It might be none of the above. There's some options of what it could be, but you touch that tissue and you will fucking know what it is. All of you will on this call. And then you'll see it represented in other areas of the body. Okay, because her toes curl, and she's got sacral energy spilling, and she's got desensitized tissue. That's 3 signs of some sort of sexual trauma. You know, I'm not saying abuse, but maybe, you know, feeling a bit suppressed in her sexuality, or maybe was heartbroken by a previous partner or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So you're looking for all the signs, and then that's sort of putting that puzzle together. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas if the person had a lot of hair coming down here, really big sort of strong calf muscles, clenching toes, then you would say, there's a lot of old past programming that said, I've got to be strong, you know, and they didn't feel comfortable in their upbringing somehow. And they took on having to be like strong, because we could see that there's lots of old programming, and there's lots of, you know, maybe they've got big broad shoulders, so they took on a lot of responsibility. Maybe they've got big breasts, so they've over nurtured. Why have they over nurtured? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, with that hair coming down thing, do you mean just like hair coming down over the face?
No, I mean like those stuck bits there.
Oh, right. So what is it? If there's someone's got a really big fringe, is that something? Because I remember us talking about hair and which side you parted it on and blah, 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 blah. But what about the fringe thing? Is that like covering?
Well, what are they covering? They're covering their memory and their imagination, but they're also covering their third eye and their crown. It's like their spiritual connection. Why? Maybe they're going through a phase, because, you know, people do fringes in phases. You know, people will just have hair like mine, and then next minute they rock up and they've fucking got a fringe. And I swear to God, people do it after a breakup. So many people, they go through a breakup and next minute they've got a fringe. Like, I really do think it's some sort of like hiding, you know, like, I don't want to feel too much, I'm feeling exposed. Not that you would know that that's what's happening, but it's like intuitively you just feel to all of a sudden have all this hair over your face, you know?
Yeah.
Again,
what about beards?
There's no good, bad, right or wrong. Like, I would never say to somebody, get rid of that fringe, but if I saw somebody that was wanting to feel a bit more open and spiritually connected, I would say, yeah, pin your fringe back and see how you feel. A beard is quite interesting, because our hair holds a lot of memory, and our hair, and therefore it can actually hold a lot of wisdom. So to have a beard, you could say, oh, they're hiding, or, you know, there's a lot of sort of fertility around the physical third of their body. Or you could say it's like wisdom. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's a lot of memory around there, you know. Again, I guess it sort of depends. God, I just realised there's a lot of people breaking the rules in my street. Makes me feel really much better about myself. It's funny when you sit out here what you start seeing. Anyway, so basically, that hair and everything is like, I feel, you know, maybe are they covering their sensuality? Where is the hair? Is it like hanging all over their lips? Is there a certain emotion that they have around it? When did they start growing the beard? How do they feel when they don't have the hair on? So, yeah, again, like sort of really feeling into that person's personality as well.
It doesn't always have to be hiding. It could be like a holding.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
Yeah, or it could be maybe they want to look more wise, you know? Like maybe they're craving that feeling of wisdom. Or maybe their partner just said beards are hot and they want to have a beard. You know, like it's like, but again, what is that? What is the soul communicating?
Yeah.
You know? So it's like the beard might be quite non-significant for that one person, but it's really significant for another person.
Yeah. Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.
Does it help when I talk like this, or do I just make you feel overwhelmed? How do you feel when I'm doing this?
That's good.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Because sometimes, I guess because I talk fast and there's so much inspiration and stuff, sometimes I feel so exhausted afterwards that I think, fuck, I hope I didn't just like head.
No, it's good.
As long as it gives you more clarity, not less.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me okay, or do I have like a delay or something?
Bit of a delay.
Sometimes,
Okay.
yeah. Sometimes a
Because
delay.
you just laugh at my jokes on delay, and I'm like, oh, they're not finding me funny today.
Oopsie.
I'm like,
All right, awesome.
I get a couple of laughs, but not today. I think it's because the laughing's on delay. The other questions? Kate, did we answer your questions, babe?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Yeah. My only other question, I guess, was have we figured out how to send the video, the recording yet of the bodyworks?
We can do the Zoom, remember? Record the Zoom and then share the link. Wasn't that the option?
I'm so sorry, guys. Since we spoke last, yes, that would be a great idea.
Okay.
You can also do it on.
Would that work for you?
You can do it on YouTube as well. I've done them on YouTube for uni.
Oh, yeah, because you can set them to private on YouTube so that only somebody who has the link can see it.
Yeah.
So you could upload it to YouTube and then just share the link with me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I'm so sorry, guys. I haven't actually spoken to Murray since we spoke the other night because it's just been so go, go, go. I just haven't I haven't made the space.
That's okay.
To speak to her.
All right. And did you understand when I messaged you about not having the top of the back in full view so you can see where I'm pressing? Is that?
Yeah, that's fine, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, again, I will clarify with Murray. I'm sorry, there's quite a few things I need to clarify with Murray.
Yeah.
And I apologise because I've told you I'm going to talk to Murray, and I just haven't made the time.
Yeah.
Me and Murray's conversation is going to go for quite a while, so it's I need a good, hour and a half probably to talk to that woman. Love her to bits, but yeah, she's like us. We can blah, 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 blah. So basically, I will clarify with her, but from my perspective, this is my understanding, is the only reason why you're recording it is because I would have supervised you doing this. Because none of my other students have ever had to submit a recording, but none of my other students have ever skipped the 2 days and done the paperwork first. And none of the students have ever had to do it during a pandemic or in a lockdown. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, I can't supervise you right now in person. So as long as I can see roughly, what your hands are doing, I can hear what you're saying, I can see how you've set up the space, stuff like that. But I will clarify this with Mari. I'll try and even give her a call later today.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
All right. I want to do like another class on Monday or something. So I'll see if I can have those answers to you by then.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Right.
But also remember that you guys have full access to Mari too, and she'd love to speak to any of you. But I sometimes hearing things from different mouths can then get confusing. So if you're going to have a conversation with her, just make sure you're very much in your body, you're centered, you're conscious of your energy, so that you don't sort of start going, oh my God, because if she starts using different language to what I've used, it could become like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes when I speak to her, I'm even like that. I'm like, hang on, what? You know, because she's saying it in a different way that I would say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
But you've got full access to her as well.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Did you say, were you going to ask a question, Melanie?
No, I just said, okay, thank you.
I can smell sausages.
Oh.
Someone's cooking like a barbecue. I'm like, oh my God, it's 25 degrees. There's a barbecue cooking. Oh, it's like torture session over here.
Are you in one of those yellow houses?
At Carrum?
Yeah.
No.
Oh,
I'm not on the Nepean Highway. I'm on Church Road.
I always had a funny feeling that was one of your places. Anyway.
Babe, you've been to my place at Carrum, haven't you?
No.
Really? Oh.
So?
I felt like you've been there. No?
No.
Ah. Okay.
I thought it was
I'm on Church Road.
Okay.
Church Road in Carrum.
I don't know where that is.
St Kilda apartment's the one that's got the beach view. The one here, there's no view. A couple of streets back from the beach.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to get stuck onto it while I'm childless for the day. So I'm just thank you so much, Rach. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, all of you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. I'll have is Manisha still there? I don't know Manisha's. I will have my all day. So if you need to shoot through a question or whatever, just do it. Shoot through a question. I can reply straight away.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rach.
Bye.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Love you. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.